Oh,
Yep.
okay, there you go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Kezia Nicole with Parents Out the Mud. And I am super excited today about today's episode. We are talking about avoiding burnout. When you're an influencer, a lot of business owners have started their business as influencers, as speakers, as podcasters, and it can get really, really strange, okay? It's really strange to try to manage that business. On top of that, say if you're a parent, right? For all of my parentpreneurs out there that saw becoming an influencer as a way to try to create a work-life balance. Well, there's some things in the industry that no one's ever told you, and I am super excited today about our guest today, Mr. Myq Rodriguez. Y'all give it up for Mike.
The
What's up,
clap, the
Mike?
clap, the clap, the clap, the clap,
Woo!
the sound effects. We do all that. Thank you for having me. I appreciate
Yes,
it.
all of
I appreciate
that.
it. I appreciate it. Nah, this is awesome.
Absolutely.
This
Thank
is
you for
awesome.
being here.
Of course.
Thank you for being
Parentpreneur
here.
is
And
the
so I
word.
always like to parentpreneurs, yes,
I love
and
it.
that's
I love
who our audience is today. Um, Definitely. So I always like to ask a question when I have my guests on Parents Out the Mud. Is what was the moment when you felt like you really got it out the mud as a parent, as an entrepreneur, or heck, both?
well, I'll be honest. Like I always talk to, speak with fathers, right? Especially, I'm older, right? I always say this is not a filter. This white is for real. It's not a, anything, filtered or anything like that. Um, you know, but as far as with, as fathers, your wife or the mom gets 10 months to spend with the child prior to you, and for us, we don't know until we actually see the baby. Um, and when I first saw my first son come out, I bawled like a baby, um, and it changed my life. It changed my life completely. I don't like to sound cliche, but I think when you have a child, you become a father, and I'm speaking from my experience. I think there's two things that happen. Number one, you either say, "Hey, I have to live for the child, and I'm forget about me, and I'm going for my children," or you say, "I have to go harder because I want to give my kids more," and I chose the latter. Um, because I come from business. I've seen my grandmother get it out of the mud, coming here from Puerto Rico, having a bar for 40
Wow,
years in the Bronx,
wow,
and I seen my mother go from corporate America to having her own business. And at 10 years old, I helped her name when she went on her own. I named her business. I gave it a slogan. I got her first three orders. Like I know what that's like. And then myself had a regular 9 to 5, and then you know for me, really getting it out of mud was the time when it was kind of like, okay, now I'm doing this for real. And this is my income, right?
yeah,
This is what I do. Um,
yeah.
and I think that's what a lot of parentpreneurs come from. I think entrepreneurs. I think people get it twisted too. You don't just become an entrepreneur. Like there has to be some sort of side hustle that turns into that. My opinion. My opinion. Now, if somebody gives you money that you can start a business, by all means, I get that. I didn't come from that. I didn't come from that. I feel like, people, your 9 to 5 is your first investor, and that's where you have to lean in and take that investment. And nobody's like, I wish if I could have more time. I hear you. I get that because I was there. I had a conversation with my stepfather. I'll never forget. Um, and I said, oh, and this was when I was in music. I said, oh, I wish I didn't have the job because then I could be in the studio more and I could do this and I could do that. And
Hmm.
he was like, but how are you paying for studio time? I said, oh,
That part.
my paycheck.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, stop looking at it as look at your job as the financier. And that changed my whole mentals. And
Yeah, your
that
first investor, right?
that advice I give to everybody, because again, you're around everybody. Listen, especially with social media, everybody's an entrepreneur. Everybody's the CEO of everything, and it's like I get it, but how are we really doing this? And it's not easy. It's not as easy as just a faceless video. It's not. The jokes out there about, oh, you just gotta eat and you sleep 15 seconds a day, and
Yeah.
it's not about that. Especially when you're a parent, there's a lot more involved, and then when you're married, it's a lot more involved because again, but I know people that are married, have kids, and all they care about is their business. I'm not that. I am an active,
Right.
loving husband. I am an active, loving father, and I'm an active, loving,
Yeah.
business owner that cares about my talent and my projects. So that becomes
And
difficult,
that's a, I was gonna
challenging.
say that's, yeah. Yeah, that's a great segue into why, why it's important to juggle both and do it well. So like how many kids do you have? And how do you
I
balance that with your kids
well,
and your family?
I have three kids. I have and two with my wife, and the youngest is 14. So I kind of did. He's the last one. Let's just say because one's working, another one is has a baseball scholarship, and he's in college. So he's 21. So I'll always be there. But it's the 14-year-old is the one that we that you got to focus on, and
Yeah.
he's growing up differently than Mikey, right? So it's MJ, Mikey, and Maddox, right? So Mikey and Maddox are with my wife, and
Wow. Uh-huh.
Maddox is growing up differently than Mikey. Mikey grew up on the struggle.
Yeah.
Mikey grew up on
Wow.
the
Yeah.
the 9 to 5,
He was in the
yeah,
mud
hold
with
on a
you.
second. He was definitely in the mud with us, and whereas Maddox, it's not so much, right? So they don't understand, right? They have two different concepts of life. But the thing is that, I do
Mm,
affirmations
yeah.
every morning, and I am so focused on Maddox, and I'll say, and Maddox is
Hmm.
my priority. That's how I end my affirmations. Like I say it a few times, and I want him to understand that. And I'm very critical on my time because he needs it the most. It's gonna be. I got maybe a couple of years left that he's really gonna need my time. He's a piece of clay, and
Yeah.
I tell him, I said, what do you think when do you think somebody turns an adult? And he was like 18. I said, okay, life expectancy, let's just say it's 80. I said, you're going to be an
Right.
adult a lot longer than you're a child. And right now, you're a piece of clay. And I got
Yeah.
to make sure that you're good so that you
Wow.
become a great adult. So that's kind of like where I'm at from the parent
That
side and stuff
is,
like that.
listen, listen, Mike, let me tell you that really speaks to me. Just what you're saying, because I know for me and like some of my siblings, we always grew up like around a lot of kids and like a large family, and sometimes that value isn't there, that you really don't have a lot of time when you're a kid. You spend most of your time as a adult, and
Hmm.
that is absolutely um revolutionary for people, for parents that don't value it in that way. I'm not going to say as
Right.
much. And so that
Hmm.
really just makes me wonder, how do you deal with like those challenging moments, like when you're frustrated the most and like different situations get the best of you, trying to juggle, the time versus obligations, business priorities.
Yeah. Well,
Like how do
I'm
you
very
in those moments, how do you manage like choosing?
well. I think I'm big on the person has to be right before the business is right. I say that to my talent all the time, and mentals are a big thing, right? Your mental state, your mind state. Um, and it's funny. My youngest son Maddox says he says he's like, Dad, you're like Kobe. You have Mamba mentality. So that's the biggest thing. I think you have to have that foundation because you're gonna get life is gonna throw a bunch of curveballs at you, and sometimes they pile up, and unless you have a good foundation, you're not gonna really understand how to deal with any of that. And that foundation gives you everything, right? It's ups and downs, and I tell people all the time. Like I do videos in the morning, good morning, good morning, and everybody's like, "Oh, Mike, you're so positive." I'm like, "Yeah, I hear you," but but the thing is that I have down moments too, right? And what
Yeah.
separates us is everybody's going to have a down moment.
Mm-hmm.
How long are you going to stay in the down moment? You got to be able
Mm.
to bring yourself back up because again, and I'm an open book. Um, I want to say maybe 2 months ago, I had a breakdown, right? Literally broke down to my wife crying because there was a lot. School, all of everything that you're talking about. There's so many different things happening. But in that moment, as I'm crying, I'm like, but babe, I'm not complaining because it could be worse. So me having the self
Yeah.
awareness of, yes, I'm having a moment, but it could be so much worse. And I was able to come out of that. Um, and again, it goes back to mindset. Your foundation will be able to have you deal with anything, because I don't feel like there's anything that I can't do. Right? That's another affirmation I said. I said I could do it. I could do anything I want, and I really truly believe that and feel that. And once you understand that and you have that, you can really come to get go through get through anything in life. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just how life is.
Yeah, Mike. Well, let me ask you a question.
Hmm.
Is there an experience, because I know you work with influencers, you work with different people that have like large platforms, and I
Hmm.
know sometimes that they can be a handful. Okay, it could be a lot going on.
Right.
So I got a couple. I got two questions. One question is there like a coping strategy or a unhealthy coping mechanism that you had to grow from when being in such a high stress industry such as like influencer management?
Yes, I've had to like step back, slow the moment down, because I am very like this, right?
Mhm.
And I've also had to understand that everybody is not me, and that was huge for me, because everybody doesn't handle things like me, meaning people, not just different managers, just talent, right? And
Mhm.
my gift and my curse is my heart. So I sometimes I let I have a saying, business is always personal, because you're dealing with people, and sometimes I
Mhm.
allow those emotions to weigh heavy on me. um, and I've learned not to, right? Because business is always personal. You're dealing with people, but I also have learned to not let things sit so heavy on me where it affects me, because I am so entrenched and so involved that that's what happens to me. So I've definitely had to learn to not, again, it's almost like hypocritical, but not take everything personal, meaning the personal feeling aspect of it, because people will do what they do, and situations happen, and everything is not going to be perfect. So I've definitely had to work on for myself, not taking things so personally, and like I said,
Personally.
weighing heavy on me.
Well,
Yeah.
so after you take it personally, after it weighs heavy, I'm sure you had to like cope with it, right? Like, what's that one thing that you use to soothe yourself, to cope with like feeling some type of way about when you're either taken advantage of, or you're feeling you're feeling down in that way. Like, what's the one thing that I would say like your unhealthy coping?
My
Um,
my my the unhealthy was, it's like, hey, I need a drink. Right? That's the unhealthy thing.
yeah.
um what I do now is kind of like, uh, take a walk. I take my dog out, because when I take a walk, and don't do any phone call. Like, I don't want to speak to anybody. Let me just be with
Yeah,
me,
just shut
because I
everything
do
down.
because I do know what's the right thing. And again, I'm older now, so there's certain things, that I just have to, because I have to worry about my health. That was going back to, hey, this is now weighing heavy, and I've had people, my close circle, Mike, the overall, the macro situation, you got to be good, because I am, like I said, I am a servant leader. I am in a service
Mhm,
business. I am always doing. And what's very difficult in this position, management,
mhm,
representation, you
mhm.
have to be about everybody else, but
Yeah.
your personal life, you got to be about yourself. So
Mhm,
finding that balance is very difficult, especially, hey, it's about you, it's about you, it's about you, and you got to be selfish. And that's why I think some managers or some people in my position don't
mhm,
necessarily understand that, because, oh, I got to think about myself. Yes, to a degree, right? To a degree,
mhm,
you've chose a position that you are representing somebody. You are the mouthpiece of somebody. So
mhm,
sometimes you can't just speak how you would want to, because maybe your client doesn't feel that way, and you have to remember where you are. It's almost like a politician. Well,
mhm.
I don't know if I want to go down that way, but I'm just saying,
Here, not in this
it
climate.
it's just that you're speaking for people, right? And you got to
Yeah.
kind of understand that and not be so selfish. So,
So if you were to have like a young person who was pursuing the industry that you're in, what would you what like piece of advice, like if you had a young person to say, hey, you gonna retire in 30 years, I want your book of clients, what's the like
Mhm.
one thing that you what advice that you would give that person, especially if they're a parentpreneur, especially, because I'm sure you made mistakes, like you said before,
A
like
hundred
you're
percent.
you're seasoned. You're not old. We
Right,
ain't
right,
old,
right, right,
sir.
right, right,
We're
right. Season,
seasoned,
season.
right?
It's a great word.
And what advice would you give that person that you would pass that mantle to?
I would say number one, definitely get the book that me and Asher are coming out with, the Content to Cash Bible. But what I would say is if you're trying to be a manager or in representation, you have to be right. Don't go into this position trying to be the guy, right? A lot of times, especially in this climate, because it's so different from even when I first started. It's like people want to be the influencer, and yes, you have to do content for yourself to build your brand, let's just say as a manager or whatever that you're doing, but you have to sit there and just please make sure that whatever you do, make sure it's in the interest of your client. There's a lot of times that managers, I mean, there's a bad name. Even when I was in music, managers are always screwing somebody over. Managers are always, hey, you know, give me this, and I'll let you do this with my client. Managers, we get a percentage. Another thing is that if anybody is charging to be a manager, that's not a manager. I don't charge clients. I don't say, hey, give me a retainer. That's for a lawyer. I can be a consultant. That's different. But if I'm your manager, I get a percentage off of what you make, right? So, a lot of this, and again, not to, going back to the book, a lot of things in there is, I want to get to a point where I'm stepping away, and this is kind of like my leap into that in education and trying to teach so that managers don't have such a bad name. People that are agents or representatives don't have a bad name. You can
Yeah,
be honest people. You could be a shark. You don't have to be a man-eating shark, right? Like you could be a
yeah,
good shark, right? You can do business, but just make sure that you have to put your clients. I've literally just had a situation where somebody offered me a lot of money to make
wow,
sure to convince me to take my client to them rather than the other person. That would have been better for me personally, financially, 100%. I went the other way because I felt like this direction was better for them, and that's what you have to be. And you gotta, being a manager is not. You got to be able to be a people person. You got to be able to communicate. You got to be able to know that people are. I'm in a job where you have to do something before I can. Even in music, I used to be jealous of artists and producers. I'm like, damn, I wake up, I want to do something. I can't until you give me a song. Like then I
right.
could do something. But you know, and in the beginning, you're everything. The manager is the agent, the therapist, the Uber driver, we're everything. We're everything.
The taxi, all of that.
Yeah, all of it,
Right, right,
all of it.
right.
Hmm.
All of
Hmm.
it. And so I'm sure like there are parts where you had to learn, like you said, have emotional intelligence. You had to learn how to like manage, the expectations of others. I mean, that had to be really hard, I would imagine, because you literally are taking care of everyone else. What are some
Hmm.
like best practices that you have around like self-care? Like how do you find time to do that, or really what tools are you using to do that?
Well, for me, again, being seasoned and experienced in not only business, just in life, my kids are in sports, right? So honestly, like, I prioritize my time, right? So I don't need to go out. I'm not going to a club. I'm not going out. That's not I did that when I was younger. My time is going to my son's game. I love to be there because there's no business. I get to relax. I get to do what I have to do. My walk with my dog, it could be, I try to get my 10,000 steps a day. That is self care. Once in a while, I'll go to a cigar bar, or my stepfather. Like those are the things you got to find the time for you, because that's another thing is of learning how to take care of yourself and how to be like, you know what, it's about me, especially because all I do in personal and business is think about everybody else. So I take those moments, and I also don't go crazy with those moments, right? Because if I don't do, things don't get done, if that makes sense. So it's okay, you can take your time, take care of yourself, yes, but don't get lazy either, right? Don't sit there and, hey, because people
Screw off.
justify that too. Yeah, people justify that, be like,
Yeah.
oh, I did this, and I'm gonna take a week. I hear you. Those there's certain times, and now I've learned to also vacation. You know,
Uh,
Christmas when the industry
yeah.
is down. All right,
Uh,
and then what I do, and my son, he knows this. Like if we go away, I'll take at least one day. My phone is going in a room. I don't need any
ah,
videos. I don't need any pictures. I don't need anything. It's right. I'm with the most important people in my life right now. I don't need it. I don't need to see what anybody's doing. I'm good, and I take that moment to kind of like unplug for a second. But self care is a big thing. My mom always like take care of yourself, take care, especially when there's so much going on. You gotta take care. You gotta take care of yourself.
that is hard. Like I struggle with that. I struggle with putting my
Hmm.
phone down. I went to a meeting one day and the guy was like, yeah, y'all got 30 minutes because my phone going off. And like, yeah, we can't never get in touch with you after 3 o'clock. And he like, nope, after 3 o'clock it's about my family. And like, I feel, a little shame that
Hmm.
that was new to me, but nevertheless I learned that that's what I have to do. I have to literally turn my phone off, put my phone away.
Yeah,
So
and you can make exceptions though. You can make
yeah.
exceptions because I understand it. Because believe me, I'm like that, and I do the Sunday thing. The Sunday thing is like, yo, please don't bother me, right? And but sometimes there's moments on Sunday. It is what it is, right? Because we're so conditioned. If you go on anything, you got to get, everything that we're talking about. You just hear about money,
Yeah.
especially in our culture, and I hate it. I get it,
Yes.
but it's like it's just you're being fed. Like I said, there's a saying. I always say we're in a chase the bag society. Chase the bag, chase the
Hmm.
bag, chase the bag. I pick up my luggage. That's money that's meant for me. I am not chasing money. Once you start
Hmm.
chasing things, you chase your dreams, right? You can chase your passion, but you're chasing
Hmm.
an item, you're chasing money, and that
Yeah.
means you'll start doing anything for that. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Maybe when I was 25, it's different, but I'm good. I'm straight.
Really brought me to the next question is, so what's going on in business? What's next for you?
Um, Next is the booklet ask. We have this book coming out called the Content to Cash Bible. Everything you really need to know to build wealth in the creator economy. Um, that's really the big thing. It's just kind of positioning myself as I'll put it in urban terms, as an OG in this space, right? Just really educating and just trying to, the things that I've seen. The book has, if you want to be an influencer, whatever, definitely you have these the basic pieces, but then I go into about professionalism and making sure that you're on time. And there's all of these things that people don't speak about. There's books out here, and it's like, yeah, that's great. Yes, post this time, cool, great, fantastic. Give me apps to do this. Okay, okay, you can do all that, but what about the professional side of it? This is a career, right? I always tell people it's a creator economy, and a lot of creators only focus on the creator side. When I need you to focus on the economy side, and not saying focus on the money, but you got to focus on why an economy is being generated, and that's why businesses and brands want to work with creators because they can save their money and make their money. So once you learn how to focus on this and then position yourself as a business, then we can do that. And then Ash's part is he brings in the financial side on what you should be doing with your money because a lot of that's not spoken about. So he and I kind of came together and just put our worlds together. We always feel like we're the guys in each of our spaces, and we came together and did this. So
Nice. where
yeah,
where can they find the book? Can they find it at the
yeah,
pivot.com?
yeah. No, 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 no. It'll be on Amazon. I don't know when this is coming out, but pre-orders are gonna come out. You could go. I want to say you could do pre-sales now, but the book will be available October 1st. So
Okay. On
yeah,
Pivot first.
no, on Amazon,
On
Barnes and
Amazon.
Noble.
Got
It'll
it.
be everywhere. It'll be everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, you guys, don't forget to check out Myq. Follow him on Instagram when he gets ready to post information about the book.
Definitely.
You definitely can go ahead and sign up for the pre-orders. I know I'm gonna have to get me one. I cannot wait, and we'll have to do this again
No, for sure. And are we
when
gonna
it
do
comes out.
InvestiCon? I want to do InvestiCon.
Yes, definitely. For sure.
Yeah,
Shout out
I'm
to
with
Young
that.
Investors Group with InvestiCon.
I'm with that.
Yep.
I'm with
And
that.
guys, follow him. Thank, thank you so much, Myq, for
Yeah.
joining our family today. All the parentpreneurs out there were and are truly blessed because of your wisdom and your insight.
No,
Thank you
I
so much for
appreciate that.
coming.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It was awesome. Mm.
Awesome. And guys, don't forget to like, follow, and share Parents Out the Mud. I'm super excited to announce we have finally launched our website. So go to parentsoutthemud.com and follow, get connected, and buy you a nice little Parents Out the Mud shirt. You know what I mean? Tee. It's dope. All right, next time I'm gonna have it on for y'all. And thank y'all for joining us, and we will